Welcome to a glorious day here on the vegetable plot. It's about 35 degrees here in the polytunnel and about 20 degrees outside. The sun's shining, it doesn't look as if it's going to rain, and it's absolutely lovely. And since you last saw me, I have been really busy. So I had lots of things that I'd sown, some had germinated, some hadn't. Everything has now germinated, bar a couple. I haven't done any second sowings yet because the things I was going to second sow have actually surprised me and germinated. And the weather is more consistent now. I have been potting on lots of the seedlings now into bigger pots to give them the opportunity to grow on. I'm still waiting for my nematodes, so I've pre-ordered my slug nematodes, and I don't want to put anything out until I've got those nematodes going. So I'm going to hang fire and just keep growing them on here in the polytunnel where they're nice and safe. I've also been getting on with lots of weeding, and I'm hoping you're going to see a really big difference. There's still bits and bobs to do, and let's face it, with gardening there's always something to do. So let's have a little look. We'll start here in the polytunnel and then we'll go outside. In preparation for getting things out, I've got out my netting and I've been starting to go through that, planning getting that netting over the beds as soon as I get things out, because I do have bird issues with predominantly pigeons, but also partridge and pheasant. And then it's fairly tidy here in this corner of the polytunnel, but the exciting bit is what we've got going on over here. So here you can see I've potted on all sorts. So we've got beans and brassicas, some herbs. There's all sorts going on here. Down here in this little bed, this is some mustard leaves, and it's really lovely in salads. The big bed is now completely clear. We had the rest of the chard out of that, and then what we didn't eat went to the chickens. And I have actually topped that bed up now, so it's ready for planting. All of the hanging baskets are now empty right the way round the tunnel. I'm a little bit sad because I've actually lost all my geraniums. It was just such a harsh winter, and even in here covered, I have lost them. But you know, it happens, so I will have to buy some more. Let's pop down to the other end. And just as we're passing this little tub here, this has got some red spring onions in it that haven't long been transplanted into it from smaller pots. And then over here I've got again a mass of seedlings and little plants, all looking great, and a lot of these are either ready for pricking out and potting on or planting out. But again, I'm holding fire until those beds are fully prepped. And then over here, ducking under that hanging basket. So here I've got, in these little cells, I've got wildflowers and poppies. There are some peas in the 3 pots there. My little cucumber that I thought had died, I've managed to bring back to life. It's not looking great, but it's still alive. And then we've got a selection of different flowers which will be going into the flower bed in these pots, some of which have germinated and some that haven't. And then moving along again, so here we've got the bed that had the carrots in. They've now been harvested and used. It's now a bed ready to plant. And then moving along again, in this bed I'd already sown some carrots, and now in the gaps between the carrots I've got some red spring onions. And then at the other end of the polytunnel, or the other corner should I say, I've still just got a little bit of spinach there, but it's getting past its best, so I'll probably just use that up and then that's finished. And then lots of pots that just need topping up with compost, ready for planting up. And then I thought we'd just pop into the shed, because another thing that I've done is just have a good old tidy up here in the shed, sorted through all my pots and just made sure that everything that's in here is neat and tidy. So I know exactly where everything is. And of course, one of the plans I also have, which I have mentioned in previous videos, is I will be giving the outside of this shed a really good paint. Nobody's guessed the correct colour yet, so keep those colour guesses coming. And I'm also going to have a really good clear out where everything comes out and the inside will get a lick of paint as well, and then everything back in. But I want to guarantee good weather for that, and we are still getting some rainy days. I mean, I know you can never guarantee not getting a shower, but you know, April, May, we're into May now. Yeah, we're still having runs of really bad weather, so I want to sort of have 2 or 3 dry days when I do that. So let's go and have a look at the beds. So starting off here at the flower bed, everything's starting to develop. I've got plenty going in the polytunnel to fill up these gaps, and the little daffodils, they weren't actually what was advertised on the packet, and I'm so glad that I've actually put them in here, because they've all turned out to be these lovely little tete-a-tete variety rather than the big sort of blousy ones, if you will. And don't they just look delightful? So although they're later than anticipated, they're putting on such a cheery show. And then I've also now put in one of the obelisks into its permanent place. I've anchored it well down with some stakes. They're really long, those stakes, and they go right down into the ground, and up that will either be some sweet peas or some climbing nasturtium. Next, the onion bed, and they're looking absolutely great, and I finally managed to clear all those weeds out, and they're all looking really, really healthy. The potatoes have all germinated, and they're looking really, really healthy. And this is what I refer to, so I've got bed 1 next to the polytunnel, 2 and 3, and then the other beds are also numbered. But for the purposes of what we're looking at now, bed number 1, again, there's a few weeds that need to come out, but I've been keeping pretty much on top of them. Down here I've got my shallots, we've got here are some leek, and then the only other thing in this bed are my very healthy looking chives in that corner. And then bed number 2, there's nothing in that at the moment. It was pretty much weed free, but there's a few weeds that need to come out. And just here we've got a clump of self-seeded Californian poppies, but I will pull those out. And then the end bed, bed number 3, I need to, as you can see, it really needs a jolly good weed. And the only thing left in there in the far corner are some of my red onions, but they're only just a few of those at that end. The rest of the bed is empty apart from all those weeds, so I must get on top of that. And let's go and look at the fruit bed. These raspberries are looking really healthy, they're springing up. Look at that beautiful green foliage, so I'm hoping for a decent harvest from those this season. So those are the raspberries, and then further along now we're into the strawberries. These are my established plants with a few weeds interspersed, which I will deal with. And then I've put here, again, there are weeds, they need to come out, but here are my younger strawberry plants, and they're all looking really healthy, and we have actually already got a few little flowers. The rhubarb is looking absolutely fabulous. This is the stuff in the little bed here, in the little rhubarb bed, and then I've just moved, for now, it's only temporary because it's kind of in the way, but it's there for now, is the rhubarb that was in a tub. I just wanted to get it into a bit more light and away from the hedge, which I'm so excited to show you about in a moment. On the bench there, we've just got odds and sods. There's a few strawberry plants which I've given some away. These have got names ready, lined up to give away, and those pots are just ready for chucking out and throwing away. The big compost heap, which I will be pulling down, is just sitting there doing its thing and festering. And the 3 newer compost bays, this one's full at the moment, there's some in here and nothing in that end one. And I do have some bits and bobs in the green bin there as well. Now this is just a fraction of what came from the hedge. So you may remember in a previous video I showed you how tall predominantly the holly, but there are other things in that hedge. But the holly had got completely out of hand, and it was so tall it was overshadowing the whole plot. So let me show you what we've done. So this hedge is still taller than me, but if you can see the telegraph pole behind me, it was almost at the top of the telegraph pole in places. And as I say, it was totally overshadowing not just the polytunnel but the whole plot. So we have worked really hard. Chris and I made a start on it, and I think I showed that in a previous video. But Chris's wonderful cousin, who is a tree surgeon, we did pay him, but he came over, and between the two of them they worked really hard, and we've got back on top of this hedge. So let's go round to the other side so you can see just what a difference it's going to make. So you can see how close it is to the polytunnel. I have got this pathway here, and there is still some of the trimmings that need to be cleared away, but now the polytunnel is not going to be as overshadowed. The rest of the plot's going to be better. Not only have I got more room here, but that height has gone, and it fills me with such joy. So finally I'm feeling like I'm really on top of things. The polytunnel's looking fantastic. All the plants I've got are doing really well, and what I forgot to show you, which I am more excited about than anything at all, I can't quite believe how excited I am. Look at this asparagus. So these were the first sowings, the ones that I said hadn't germinated, and here they are, they've germinated. I'm so excited to eventually get that asparagus bed going. So there's so much going on. I can't wait to be getting these plants out, and it won't be long before the bean arches are lush and green with beautiful bean pods hanging down. There'll be flowers in the flower garden. All the beds will be full of wonderful vegetable and flower plants.